I just want to say I'm so excited about tonight's show. I have one of my most fabulous, wonderful, incredible, inspiring people joining me tonight, and I'm so thrilled she's here. I'm lucky to be talking to Lynn Andrews tonight, author of 19 books, talking about her amazing adventures into the world of spirit, the real-life worlds of her native teachers, and their profound wisdom of ancient spiritual worlds. She is a New York Times best-selling author and international speaker, spiritual leader, teacher, healer, writing teacher, a very, very good friend of mine, and I'm just so thrilled that she's here. She's founder of the 4-year Mystery School and Graduate Program, which I am a graduate of and current member of. She's also the founder of Joshua Tree Gatherings and the Hawaii Retreat, which are both fabulous, and she offers online courses, sacred forums, and she is also the founder of International Councils of the Whistling Elk. Without further delay, because I just can't wait to speak with her tonight, is Lynn. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Hillary. How are you? It's so good to talk to you.
Well, I'm so glad. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Would you mind starting with a prayer for all of us?
I certainly will. If everybody would take a deep breath and close their eyes, hopefully you're not driving. Great Spirit, Mother Earth, powers of the 4 directions, our ancestors, the great and exquisite beings of light who protect us and inspire us at this time. Thank you for your inspiration, and thank you for being with us on this wonderful show. In spirit, namaste.
Thank you, Lynn. So what's new? What's going on? I know you have a bunch of things going on. Now you're starting a writing school, and you have all kinds of fabulous things going on. Would you like to share with us?
Absolutely. The writing school is a course that is, I began the course in my mind when I wrote Writing Spirit for Penguin Tarcher in New York. And Writing Spirit, Finding Your Creative Soul was a book that came out about a year ago. And off of that book will be the writing school. Of course, it will include aspects of that, but also finding your creative soul, and not just for the writer, but for the artist, for the musician, for the person in search of truth and enlightenment in their life, in this lifetime. The course is really all about that. It's a year-long course, and it is going to be online for now. And we'll see where it takes us from there. But I'm very excited about it. It'll start the first of next year, sometime probably in the early part of the year.
And Lynn, if people are interested in hearing or finding out more about that, where should they find that? On my website, which is www.lynnandrews.com. How exciting. You know, I'm very excited. I'd like to talk to you tonight about your first book that came out, Medicine Woman, and the significance of the marriage basket. Now, as you know, I'm a graduate of your 4-year school, and one of the reasons how I found my way to your work and your school and all your fabulous things that you have going on, I picked up a copy of Medicine Woman years and years ago, probably about 12 or 13 years ago, and it just was such a touching, moving story, and it took me into a place that was just incredibly rich and filled with just this incredible energy. And would you like to share a little bit about what Medicine Woman was all about and what the marriage basket symbolizes for people who I'm sure have perhaps read your book, but maybe we could just talk about that for a bit.
Well, gosh, that was a long, long time ago. I published Medicine Woman in 1980, and it was the first of 19 books that I have written along the line of the same series, which really is about my own life. They're all autobiographical. And it started out in Beverly Hills. I was married to someone in the film business. I have a daughter. I was leading a life that most people would think, gosh, you know, what a fabulous life to live. Why would you want to do anything else? And I found myself tremendously empty in a spiritual way. And I had, from the time I was born, I always had the ability to see lights around people, to see their energy field, see when they were lying to me, when they were in pain, when they were in a state of illness in some way. And I discovered very early on that people were frightened by that. And so I denied whole aspects of myself for a very long time, until my 20s, actually. And it was at that point that I realized that you cannot pretend to be something that you are not. You cannot live a lie. You have to take a very, very close and profound look at yourself and take a look at the magic and the mystery that you live in. So anyway, to make a very long story short, Medicine Woman is about this journey. Some very extraordinary things happened to me. I went to an art gallery opening, and this was, a couple of years into my difficulty of trying to find a teacher all over the world. And most of the people that I found were men. And they were wonderful and still remain great friends of mine. But I wanted to learn from a woman because I'm a woman. And I went into this art gallery one night with a friend, and I saw a picture of this beautiful Native American basket. And it was in a sepia print, and I thought, how unlike Stieglitz, who the exhibit was for, to have done this kind of a photograph. And I went up to it, and I put my hands on the frame, and I'll never forget it. I had the blast of northern air on my face and through my hair, and I looked down at the legend underneath the photograph, and it said McKinley circa 18-something or another. And I said to my friend, oh, my God, I've got to buy this photograph. Look at this beautiful basket. I've never seen anything like it. And he said, oh, for God's sake, come back on your own time. I want to get out of here, blah, blah, blah. So I left. And that night I started a series of dreams that were to last for years. And it was different dreams of an ancient elder Native woman preferring to me in her hands this beautiful basket. And I went down there the next day, and only to find that they'd never had any such photograph. And, so, Hillary, as you have experienced yourself, I'm sure, this was something that was occurring in a very different level of consciousness and a parallel reality. And so I went in search of the marriage basket, and it turned out to be a very sacred object that symbolizes the marriage of the male and female aspects that we all have within ourselves. And I, of course, didn't know that at the time, and nobody had ever heard of a marriage basket. There were wedding baskets, but not a marriage basket. So a whole series of events happened that led me to the north of Canada, led me to the keeper of the basket, a woman named Agnes Whistling Elk, and another mentor, very extraordinary woman of high degree, Ruby Plenty Chiefs. And when I met them, I knew instantly that these were my teachers and that my life would change forever in a very wonderful and magnificent way. And I went into a place of apprenticeship to them for many, many long years, and I became part of the circle called the Sisterhood of the Shields, which they are a part of. And I learned extraordinary things about ancient wisdom and knowledge, and things that have been hidden for thousands of years and held safely by the women of different tribes of different nations. And the knowledge was passed down to other women and daughters and apprentices throughout time. And I'm the first person that has ever been able to come out publicly about these teachings, and they're held in scrolls in clay pots. And it took a long time for me to decipher them along with the rest of the women in the sisterhood. And I've written all of these books about it, and it has been an extraordinary journey of growth and of healing. And then, I don't know, about 10 or 11 years ago or 12 years ago, I started a school, which, Hillary, you were a part of. Mm-hmm. And it's a school about Sacred Arts and Training, and it's a mystery school. It's based on these sacred teachings, and it's an experiential process. And I think you would agree with me, Hillary. It's not like any other school you've ever been to.
No, it's not. It's an extraordinary experience, and Lynn, what would you say to somebody out there who might be listening that might not understand what exactly a mystery school is, but they've heard about it perhaps? What would a mystery school be to somebody now in the 21st century? How would you explain that to them?
Oh, a mystery school has many definitions. A mystery school usually implies that it is sacred and secret, but that also you learn to choreograph the energies in the universe on one level or dimension or level of reality that you can experience on a very, very tangible, in a very tangible way. Egypt had mystery schools. Greece had mystery schools. The ancient mystery schools of, they say, Atlantis and Mu, I don't know, but there are mystery schools that have been hidden and held private only because people did not want power to get into the wrong hands, and also because it wasn't time for people to hear certain things. And they say that in Tibet, I wrote a book in Tibet called Windhorse Woman, and when I was trekking there and in Nepal, they told me, the old monks told me, that you would walk along the paths, and all of a sudden, if it was your time, rangas or sacred writings, perhaps encased in something, in a pot, in a rock, in something, would just fall in front of you on the trail. And you would pick them up and decipher them, and it would be a process of great truth for you. And I think with the Sisterhood of the Shields, the gathering of women, the circle that I belong to, there are 44 of us, and the wisdom has been given now at a time when we so desperately need to grow and to move on into higher levels of consciousness. And, there's this whole discussion of the end of calendars of 2012, of what is going to happen when the calendars end, the Mayan calendars, the Hopi calendars, and so forth and so on, and even in China. And I think Armageddon that is spoken of in the Bible, I think Armageddon 2012 means an Armageddon in the sense that we're going to die to what we were, that the consciousness that we are is growing right now, even though we're kicking and screaming, going into a higher level of consciousness. That I think many, many people are afraid of that. They're afraid of that wording. They don't want to hear this. They just want to keep things copacetic. They don't want things to get out of control, so to speak. Human beings have a terror of change in any way, shape, or form. And yet, I'm sure that there isn't a person listening who doesn't feel stressed and moved into higher energy right now. There's just no question about it. We're being moved at a much faster pace, and oftentimes we can't even describe it. We just know that we're running from beginning of the day to the end, and we keep doing it, and we're pressed almost to keep doing it. And inside of that kind of an intent is the process of all of us becoming more than we ever have been, and capable of more, capable of a greater perception. The mystery schools, to answer your question, are about understanding levels of consciousness that maybe we don't experience in everyday life, or maybe we do. But it has to do with being able to understand the harmony of nature, for instance. We consume a great deal as human beings. We don't necessarily give away or pray to the animals that have given us life. We don't understand the balance of spirit and the physical body. That doesn't mean that you have to be a religious person. This has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with putting another chip in your computer so that you see more, are able to do more. In the mystery schools, you get a new chip in that computer brain of yours so that you can function at a higher rate of intelligence. And quantum physics is finally figuring that out, I think.
It's interesting, Lynn, because your description of, us moving into, a higher paced energy and feeling that fear is kind of what happened to me when I decided to join your school. I went through a series of, I don't know, it was a fear. It was, I have so many other things to do. I just can't do this right now. But yet there was a part of me that knew I had no choice, that I had to move into it and face it and go through it. And exactly what you just described with what we're headed towards with 2012 and the shift in consciousness and a quickening, if you will, was very much what I experienced in making the decision to choose to join something so unknown as a mystery school. Is that common? I'm sure that's common among people who, step out into trying to, join the school, saying, okay, I want to do this. I'm called to it. They find you. And then what happens is this fear sets in.
Well,
what do you say to them? The fear that
sets in is usually the fear of someone finding that they're growing and not knowing what to do about it. It scares them because if you're growing, that implies change. And change, again, is something so hard for people to accept, to experience. We're afraid of it. We're so afraid to be out of control, particularly if you happen to be a child of abuse in any way, emotional or physical abuse. Because if you've been abused, you want to control the environment around you so that you won't be hit, so that you can be invisible. And you want to grow. You know that you're not getting any food for your spirit in your life, and yet you're afraid of that. Now, you would come to my school, say, as an abused person, let's just say, I'm not saying that all people that come to my school are abused, but if you are an abused person, you tend, as part of that experience in life, to be abused usually means that you're a puella or puer eternus, which is a Latin term for the eternal child. And the eternal child usually tries to sabotage their adult life. If you find yourself doing that, sabotaging relationships, money situations, abundance situations, sabotaging your education, a typical puer thing to do is to go to college and get up to just before you graduate and quit, that sort of thing. So you sabotage yourself, or you don't allow yourself to get the good thing at the end, the treasure, because you really unconsciously don't feel that you are worthy of that treasure. Many people are going through that today. We don't feel worthy of the growth that is happening within us. We don't feel worthy of it, and therefore we want to deny it. When you join a mystery school is about learning how to use the mind, learning how to use your emotions for health, to heal situations of disease so that you're no longer in a vibrational area where disease can even exist. You learn how to think. You learn that if you are a puer, an eternal child, someone who's been abused, you don't even know what your dream was as a child. You were so busy trying to protect yourself from any kind of harm. I always tell people that have been abused, the one wonderful thing about that situation is that you know how to be a magician. You know how to be a shaman. You know how to survive. You can walk into a room and you absolutely understand the energy there in all four corners of that room, and you know if you're in danger or not. And you're very, very careful. You probably more careful than you need to be. But on the other hand, it's a tremendous training. So the upside, probably the only upside of being abused, is that you have that ability. And then you need to learn how to heal the scars and the wounds that are in there that perhaps most people, I don't think, know how to heal that. I don't think they know, as therapists, how to bridge the world of spirit, truly, and the world of the physical. Because most people, when we're dealing with the physical world, we tend to learn a service or a technique or a school of thinking, like Freudian therapy, Jungian therapy, etc. And they're all fabulous and they're wonderful. But I think along the line of that, you have to put the spirit in there too. And it's hard to learn about the spirit. You do have to do as much study as you would do for a mental process, like Freudian therapy or Adlerian, for instance. So you need to take responsibility for your spiritual life as well. And that's what we try to do in the mystery schools. We're trying to give you that kind of wisdom through the process of experience. So it isn't just getting a series of books, reading them and doing a book report or being tested. You are actually being tested through the process of experience, creating aesthetics, creating something of beauty, using colors and parts of nature and all of the elements of nature to help you to grow. And there's a process for that. It sounds vast, but and it is vast, but there is also a process that leads you from point A to point B to C, so that when you finally graduate after 4 years, and by the way, the school is a school without walls, so you can be anywhere in the world and go to the school.
And it works. I mean, it's amazing how the tasks and the support that you have set up in your school, you can be literally anywhere in the world and have it work. And you write papers.
Yes, you do. You write papers. But you know why? And everybody used to gripe about papers. Oh, I don't want to write that. I can't write. I don't know how to write. I can't type. I can't blah, blah, blah. The point about writing these specific papers is you're writing about aspects that mirror the innermost part of yourself. So when you write those papers, you're building your intent. And that intent is invaluable for you in the world, and it is very hard to exercise the intent. Shamans call it a dream body. And the dream body is accessing your ability to dream. In other words, you can dream at night, Hillary, but you maybe cannot direct those dreams. But you can learn to be awake in those dreams so that you can direct where you want to go. And all of a sudden, you learn that there is the vessel of the physical body, but that the dream body can move out of the physical body into other levels of consciousness, into other realms of existence. And since time only exists in the relative world, as Einstein said, in the relative world of physical existence and relativity, you can move out of that world into a timeless chamber of dreams. And it's there that so much is available to us in terms of higher lessons of wisdom. This has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with whether you're a Buddhist, a Catholic, a Hindu, whatever. It doesn't make any difference, because in the higher esoteric levels of any religion, and people will argue with me about this, but I do think it's true, that wherever you go in higher aspects of religion, you find that there is a description of the dream body, of moving into levels of consciousness that we don't always experience in the everyday world. Although, I think without a doubt that everybody experiences miracles every day. We just think, oh, gee, that was a coincidence. You pick up the phone and you know who's on the other end. Oh, that's a coincidence. I was thinking about you. But you were accessing a part of your dream body or your brain that you don't usually access. It's that kind of thing. You know, I'll tell you a little story, Hillary. I was in Australia writing Crystal Woman, and I was living with the Aborigines in the outback, and when my journey there was finished, I wanted to give them something really wonderful as a gift. And I had a radio. I had a little radio that was, worked on batteries and stuff. And these people had never had any touch with the Western world, or the so-called civilized world. And so I went into a whirly before I left, and a couple days before I left, and I brought them this radio, and I sat it down in the sand, and I waited for everybody to be quiet. Everybody was sitting in a circle and laughing. We were having a wonderful time. And I turned the knob, and all of a sudden, Beethoven's Fifth filled the whirly with music. And there was such a shock and such an excitement over this. They were so thrilled and so excited. I often have thought, that's just like the mystery school. That's what it does. You're a radio. You're this incredible receptor. All of your life, you've been receiving all of these images and all of this instruction and conditioning, but you never learned how to just turn a knob and go to a whole other level of existence that is all around you. You can't see those radio waves, but boy, they are there. And they
sure
are thrilling.
They sure. We have to go to break, Lynn. When we come back, I would love to continue that story, and I'd like to share something with you, too. We'll be right back after these messages. We're talking to Lynn Andrews, New York Times bestselling author of the Medicine Woman series. We'll be right back after these messages.
Everyone needs a peaceful place to retreat to, a place to refresh your spirit, nourish your mind, and care for your body. That's what we do here at A Peaceful Place Massage and Wellness Center, located between Saratoga and Albany, New York. Let us help you achieve the healthy mind and body that you want and deserve. Go to apeacefulplace.com to learn how we can help you find your peaceful place.
Listening to AchieveRadio.com. A new drummer for a new awakening.
Health professionals recommend myofascial release for connective tissue conditions as well as chronic inflammatory disorders. Having been a New York State licensed massage therapist for over 15 years, Virginia Tui has had the experience to hone her skills and become an advanced therapist in myofascial release. For more information on how myofascial release can help you, visit our website at apeacefulplace.com.
Welcome back back, everyone. Denying any one aspect of your life leaves an unmistakable imbalance and feeling of unfulfillment in one's life. Understanding that we are complex beings with complex natures allows forgiveness to become part of our everyday experience. As we allow repressed elements of our life a chance to be born and become manifest, we begin living a life of self-actualization. I'm Hillary Ramo, Matters for Mind, Body, and Spirit Talk Radio, and I am speaking with Lynn Andrews tonight, and we are having a wonderful discussion of all of her fabulous adventures with the Sisterhood of the Shields. And before we went to break, Lynn, you were talking about an experience that you had with a radio, and I think it's interesting, your comment about the frequencies and how, you know, what I kept visualizing when you were talking about that story was, you know, as they sat there listening to this bizarre thing of a radio, and, you know, if you were to turn the channels to see how you could connect into different, you know, stations and hear different things. And I was wondering if you had anything to say about how consciousness is very much like that as well.
Well, consciousness is very much like this radio. That's why I gave it to them, because it gives you an idea about the extraordinary, unlimited quality of space around you. The interesting thing is that after these people, particularly the women of high degree, after they experienced this for a couple of days and talked about it and played with it and the whole thing, they decided not to keep it. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
Okay. It just sounded like there was no one there.
I'm enchanted and captivated.
Yeah. But it was incredible because I didn't want to keep it. And the reason they didn't want to keep it is because they didn't want to become addicted to it. They didn't want it to replace the sacred dream time, which is such a central practice and part of an aspect of their lives. And the sacred dream time is something that they go into in ceremony and privately within their lives, all of their lives. And it is truly one of the more extraordinary experiences I've ever had with people, you know, to see that they understood the problems of addiction and how deeply they could be addicted into it within moments. And they're, in a way, it would have changed their lifestyle. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it sounds a lot like today with all the high-tech stuff that we have. You know, I have two small kids, and the imagination exercises of using their mind to daydream and to do all of those kinds of things is really replaced with, you know, PlayStations and video games and all kinds of high-tech stuff. And as they get older, you know, we move into the computer and the internet and all kinds of things. And it seems sad in a sense to me anyway that, you know, we forget to get back to our original natures of the cyclics, you know, the moon and the planet rhythms and the things like that. And the imagination is dreaming. I've always considered it dreaming. I've always been an avid daydreamer, an avid night dreamer. And, you know, I have to always step back out into non-technical places for me to really, you know, restore and rejuvenate that place. And I've always had to do that myself. But it's very interesting how, you know, when you take away that high-tech stuff, even though it's good, it has a purpose, we need it on some levels, but it does seem to, you know, take something away from the imaginations that we use. How does that affect dreaming?
Well, I think the interesting thing, I wanted to make just a segue for a second. I heard on the news tonight that in 20 years, every single American will be fat because of the video games, because none of the kids are going out to play anymore. They stay in and they sit. And they're perhaps becoming very facile mentally, but physically. There's a lot to be, a lot that we could do that we're not doing in terms of physical activity. And then, of course, the whole fast food thing that everybody's been talking about. I just find it extraordinary, in a way, how our world has progressed. And did you ask me what that has to do with dreaming or how that affects dreaming?
Yeah, I just want your thoughts on that, where we're headed as a society in general, because, you've had these extraordinary experiences with the shamanic world, and, how does somebody in today's world connect with the shamanic world? I mean, when people hear the word shaman, they just kind of cringe sometimes and say, oh, I don't believe in that.
Yeah, well, shamanism has nothing to do with a belief structure. Shamanism is, I think when people hear that word, they think of some kind of anthropology, and it is an anthropological term that originated out of Mongolia. But really and truly, shamanism is about the balance of nature, spirit, emotions, physical world, all of it. It's about the sacred wheel of life. And when people say I don't believe that, people should help them define what it really means. It has nothing to do with what you believe in. It has to do with how you experience life and health. And when you are tied to a computer or computer games or video games, the imagination is, yes, given to you. On the other hand, it is an almost three-dimensional vision of extraordinary things that you might not imagine for yourself. So in a way, it exercises your imagination, and yet it all is done for you. If you can take that and move into a place of your own dreaming, it's wonderful. And a lot of people do that. But unfortunately, an awful lot of people don't. They don't want to exercise their ability to learn more, to change that wonderful word again, which is, oh God, being used so too much. But yet, there's a truth to it. We're afraid of that change. We're afraid of growth, and yet we want to become more intelligent because maybe we can play those games better. It's an odd time. I think it's a bridging time. It's a time when you're going to realize what is good for us and what is not. There are no schools to teach you how to be parents, how to have a family, and that's tragic. We don't learn the things in school, it seems, that we really need to learn about financial things, as Hillary, as you and I have spoken of so often. Mm-hmm. We don't realize that how we deal with our finances is very symbolic of how we deal with life and our spiritual understanding. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's really relevant. In fact, I just wrote another book called Money Matters for Mind, Body, and Spirit that just came out last month, and it talks all about the spiritual aspects of life and how it relates to money. And it's interesting because when people talk to me about this subject of money, it's very often, stocks, savings. It's very, very practical. But when I move into asking them about spirituality or their mental relationship or their emotional relationship with money, they kind of look at me like, huh? But when we talk about what their relationship is with money, when they start to talk about their relationship with money, I move into my own shamanic stance, and I can see where they're leaking energy, or where there are perhaps openings into other areas, which always end up leading into wounding or past, some kind of relationship that they've had with perhaps their parent or their dreams, or their relationship with spirit, which very oftentimes, if they don't have a relationship with spirit, they're missing an element of something in that relationship. So when you talk about money, it's almost like you're talking about money, but you're not really talking about money. You're moving into somebody's deeper, like the layers of the onion, so to speak. You're going into core issues. And once those issues are even looked at, or the relationship, the strands of that web, so to speak, are looked at with the relationship, they very often realize why they sabotage themselves with money perhaps has to do with, like you spoke about before, with being perhaps abused as a child and being a puer or eternal child. And so they're very unable to finish anything, such as saving the $20,000 that they want to save to put down on a house. Or, oftentimes money issues are very tied in with relationship issues. If they have a very dysfunctional relationship with money, then they have oftentimes a dysfunctional relationship with their significant other. And they don't see the connection until it's oftentimes either pointed out to them or they make that realization themselves. Mm-hmm. That's what I've experienced with the money thing.
Well, the money thing is very interesting because money is abundance. And as you are above, so you are below. If you have abundance of spirit, then you have an aspect of self that expands and reaches out to the world with love. And you don't, slowly give out love in little drips and drabs. You open up completely and you are love. And instead of just taking in abundance just in little bits or giving it out in little bits, open up just as you do with love. And it flows through you and around you, and it's part of your beauty, part of your understanding of what is sacred. We have some funny idea in this world, I think, coming out of perhaps the Judeo-Christian ethic, that somehow we have to conquer the beast, and that money lenders should be thrown out of the temples by Jesus, that money is the root of all evil. Well, it's the misunderstanding of money that is the root of all evil. It's the obsession with money. It's what you do with money that is the root of all evil, not money itself. Money, the trade beads of the 21st, wherever we are, century. And
I have
being
to laugh
a little
at
bit
that.
out of this relative world. So money is an interesting gauge for how you are dealing with certain aspects of your life. It's a very important thing, and we talked about that very early on, Hillary, and I wanted to tell your listeners, you are a wonderful apprentice because you were able to take what you learned, kind of kicking and screaming part of the way, and then all of a sudden you just kind of got a hold of things and you just went. And if this didn't work, you'd go in another direction. If that didn't work, you'd move somewhere else. And you made it work for you. And you understand things, but then you act upon them. Oftentimes we understand things. You have a school like I have. I've worked with thousands of people, and they've healed their health. They've changed their lives from poverty, miserable, into abundance and happy relationships and teaching in the world about wisdom and all kinds of wonderful things. And I've seen it over and over again. I know that you can ascribe to some kind of a process like this, and you can grow from it, and you can become healed. And I think you're a fabulous example of that. You've gone out into the world, and you're making your way, and you're making your statement. You found your voice. In my writing school that you mentioned earlier, it's about finding your voice. Writing, you can write. You can write articles. You can write books. You can do all kinds of things. But if you haven't found your voice, you're a writer that sits there, and the more you put out, the more empty you feel. And if that's what's happening, then you've got to realize that you're not getting food for your own spirit, that somewhere along the way you have sabotaged, maybe not in a very evident way, but maybe just in a way that sabotages your own happiness, your own joy. And it's a very, very important thing, I think, as creative people to realize that. It's one of the reasons I'm giving the writing course, or the writing spirit, because I feel that all people find these wonderful ways of expressing themselves, and yet oftentimes it may bring you money, it may bring you success, but maybe not food for your spirit. And if it's not bringing you food for your spirit, you need to take a look at what you're doing to yourself. What is it that is holding you back from your total and complete happiness?
You know, Lynn, thank you. That really means a lot to me. In fact, it's I've worked with you for about 8 years now, and one of the things that I think I've finally realized after kicking and screaming along the way at some point was that, it became, and I remember a conversation I had with you a long time ago about how I just never thought it was possible to get over wounds. I just didn't understand how someday, and you said to me something very powerful. You said someday those wounds will be scars and you will be able to run your hand over them and visit them as great teachers and great lessons in your life. And at that point, I understood that intellectually, but I didn't believe it, and I wasn't sure I would ever get to that point. And something that has changed considerably in my life over the last few years is the fact that I understand what that means now. And I feel like I am now ready to move out and pursue my purpose for being here. And, if you had asked me years ago, even while I was going through the school, because one of the reasons I really joined the school was because I had stuff to heal from in my own life, in my own past. And I knew that I had to do that. And so when I joined the school, it wasn't about having a fabulous place to go twice a year when we get together. It was about, and yes. it was a real, get down, roll your sleeves up, do the work, get this done, heal it, and move on. And once I did that, once I owned my responsibility with my own life and addressed those issues, and being able to now rub my hand across those scars and help other people move out into my own circle, my own world of doing what I'm supposed to be doing here. I do take those wounds and rub my hand across them as scars, and I have experienced many oftentimes some of the things that the people who I work with in my practice come to me and talk to me about things that they've experienced. It's easier for me, it's easy for me to go back and relate and pull from my own experience, and that's something that you've always taught me, is that it's about taking your life and taking your experiences and figuring out what it's supposed to be for you, because we're all here with our own purpose, and we're all here with our own experiences and our own spirit shields, and we're imprinting them. And maybe you could explain what that is in a couple minutes. But what happened for me was an extraordinary experience of taking back my power from a lifetime of giving it away to people, to different situations and circumstances. And I realized once I was at that point, now it was like this, now what? I kind of sat there and said, okay, well, now what? I feel like I'm called back all of these pieces to myself. And so what I realized was, I have a purpose here. We all have a purpose here. So now I've dedicated my life in going out into the world and, bringing this knowledge out on a global level by doing the radio show. And when I say I dedicate the show to inspiring the human spirit, it's true. Because what really helped me heal in my own life, and what helps my clients heal now in my practice, is that inspiration, is the stories that we share with each other, is the moments of life that are our own, like our gold nuggets, so to speak, that we can say, well, this is how I experienced it. And you're never really you're not telling other people how to heal. You're not healing other people. And that's one of the reasons that called me to work with you, was that there's tons of people out there who say, tell me what to heal. Tell me how to heal. Tell me what to do. And it's like they hand you all of who they are on a silver platter and say, take it. And one of the things that you've always taught me was you've handed that platter back to me, because I tried to give it to you several times.
I said, here you go, darling.
You sure did. And I think that was one of the biggest profound moments too, was saying, you know what, it's not about other people healing me. It's about me going inside and doing the work myself. And yes, along the way, sometimes you need help, and that's okay. And I think asking for help along the way during certain times was also another lesson in and of itself, was saying, you know what, I need help right now. and I can't get through this point by myself. And discerning between the two is a really big lesson, and it was one of the bigger ones for me. And now as a graduate and going back, still as a graduate apprentice of yours, I go back and I meet at Ghost Ranch with the kindred spirits, and I'm working with the women, and it's just amazing how we've all grown in our own way and how we've come back and share that with each other in a wonderful, wonderful way. And before we get done with the hour, I'd love if you'd like to talk about Joshua Tree, because I think that's an extraordinary opportunity for people who are interested in the school but maybe perhaps not yet quite ready to make the plunge into some deeper work on that aspect. Joshua Tree is a wonderful event that you do once a year at Ghost Ranch in New Mexico, where it's open to the public, but you also have your school apprentices there as well. So people can come in and intermingle with people that are in the school. And I know you've just gotten finished a couple of months ago with Joshua Tree, but do you want to speak a little bit about what Joshua Tree is and what people will experience if they come to it next year?
Well, it's interesting, Hillary. I think mostly when you're talking about things like this, people think about studying and books and being, confined to a schoolroom. One of the reasons that I did this as a school without walls, so that you can study from anywhere. But we do come together at Joshua Tree, and Joshua Tree actually has moved from California now to Ghost Ranch outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's a wonderful, beautiful place to be. And we go there and we spend 4 or 5 days, and we all stay, on that particular property. And we do a whole course of study, depending on what it is that I'm trying to teach you. I may be working on the timing. I might be working on fears that you hold within your body and where they live. I may be working on various different things, projects, and we do things physically. We paint, or we have a beautiful band that has been with me for, it's going to be 19 years. And they are there. Scarlett plays for Bobby Dylan. They're wonderful, absolutely incredible musicians. And they add to this experience that we have, so that we dance. We have incredible meditations. We do a lot of guided visualization processes that take us into other places of experience. I don't know how to explain this event.
Yeah.
Really,
it's hard. It's hard,
It's almost like putting on a Broadway play, I swear.
You have to go. You have to experience it yourself.
It's very casual, and I keep it very low-key, and yet we learn great things. It was incredible this year. We have a big bonfire. We collect juniper and sacred wood, and we collect it in a very sacred way. And we build a bonfire late at night on Saturday night. And we do special things there that are really fun and very sacred. And
yes.
if you remember, this year, these 3 lights came over the valley and just sat there above the whole gathering. It was the darndest thing. Everybody saw them. They were like triangular lights.
Huh.
And, people thought they were UFOs. We didn't know what they were. They were just there. And they hovered.
Well, Lynn, we're coming to the end of our hour, and I have to say to everybody out there that these CDs that Lynn does at Joshua Tree are available on her website, lynnandrews.com. And I did buy the set this year because I was unable to travel out there this spring, and they are fabulous. She's wonderful. Thank you, Lynn, so much for joining me this hour and talking to me and our listeners. And I think we could go on and on for another hour. So thank you so much for joining us.
And thank you so much, Hillary. Many blessings. Much love to you and all of your listeners.
Thank you, everyone, for joining me this evening. I invite you to come back next week. I will be speaking with David Icke, author of The Biggest Secret from the UK. And until next time, I love you all. I send you love and light. Namaste.